sushi in Tokyo. So last time I was here at Node Summit, I was talking about how iframes and pop-up windows are actually awesome and all kinds of things you can do with them that are useful. This time I'm going to be talking about running Webpack on your production servers. So I'm really amazed that I haven't been fired yet. But I guess I'm here in a room with a bunch of people that saw JavaScript and thought, that'll run great on the server side. So I feel like I'm in a bit of a safe space to express some of these weird ideas. So let's talk a little bit about JavaScript client-side SDKs. What are they? What do they do? How can we make them better? So in a basic sense, you can write a really simple JavaScript SDK just by wrapping an existing API. So rather than have someone break out XML HTTP request or fetch and actually make manual HTTP calls, you can literally have a JavaScript library which calls the APIs for you, and that makes it far easier for people to integrate with your services and your products and whatever else. Instead of having to figure out what headers and HTTP methods they need and everything, they can just call a simple JavaScript function and you do a lot of the work for them. But that's not really very interesting. We've been doing that for years. You can really just auto-generate this code from some Swagger spec or from some API definition. We can do way better than that. So last time I was here, I was talking about how we were really taking our SDKs to the next level and actually giving our merchants and our clients a UI that they can embed into their sites directly from our SDKs. And really our focus was on kind of building components that people could use, and it feels like they're a native embedded part of the site. Our buyers no longer have to leave the site, come to PayPal, and then get redirected back. So really now we're talking about SDKs that are actually exposing a lot more than just interfaces for programmers. But again, that's not really what I want to talk about today. Today I want to talk about how we take those SDKs and package them up and distribute them and actually serve them up, which on the face of it doesn't sound like an interesting topic. I mean, when you think about it, there are really two kind of basic ways you can do that, which we've been doing for a few years now. You can either take that SDK and compile it with Babel and Webpack it up and serve it up as an NPM module, which anyone can install, or you can take it, Webpack it, compile it with Babel, and put it on a CDN. And we've been doing both of those with some relative success for a few years, but I just wanted to talk about quickly what the downsides of these are and why we're actually thinking about moving away from both of these approaches. So NPM is absolutely fantastic. We use it for everything at PayPal, be it deploying our production servers, packaging up our apps, deploying our SDKs. Really great tool. But one of the problems we've run into with our SDKs is we just end up with so many different versions of what we have and so many different things that we need to support that people have been using, and we're really at the mercy of our clients to upgrade to the latest versions if we want to give them the latest UI, if we want to give them the latest API bindings, and if we want them to get the latest and greatest experiences, which obviously does not always happen. At the scale of PayPal, we have clients that are going way back all the way to version 1, which ends up being a really long tail of things we need to support, which is easy enough when we're just talking about API bindings, but when we have UI and iframes that are talking to each other and lots of complicated communication going on there, it becomes a lot more difficult. So our preferred approach right now is to have a CDN with an evergreen version of our SDK. So that makes things really simple. Our merchants drop a single version of our script on their pages, and they always are guaranteed to get the latest experience, the latest code, and the latest features, along with the latest bug fixes. And the advantage of that is really, I mean, everyone gets the latest code, everyone is very happy, but you end up with a script that is very difficult to maintain. Every single thing you add to the public interface has to be maintained until the end of time, but you basically end up in a situation where you can't deprecate anything. The other problem is you end up with a one-size-fits-all script that everyone has to use, no matter whether they need just feature A or feature B or feature C, or whether they're just serving people in the US or whether they're global. It doesn't matter. They get everything that everyone could possibly need. And the reason for that is we're we essentially want our script to be very fast to render. So we don't want to be lazy loading resources and slowing down the render on the merchant page. So we have to end up shipping a lot more code than individual merchants need, which is not an ideal situation, and we've ended up with a problem where our evergreen script is getting way too big, and it's probably not going to be able to last more than another year if we carry on in that direction. So is there a better way than CDNs or NPM? Well, we think there is. What we had before was this evergreen URL, but now we're thinking, let's do it live. Let's run Webpack on the server side. Let's give our merchants and our clients just exactly what they need based on where they're based, what they request in terms of different components, and what locality they're based in. So if you're serving a buyer who's based in France, you don't want to be giving them German language because they're never going to need that. So we can dynamically build that together and give merchants exactly what they need so they end up with a way smaller bundle. So everything, the first time a request comes into our server to get our SDK and that script tag, we run a Webpack build, which is obviously not the fastest thing in the world. We transpile all of the code. We narrow down everything just to what that individual merchant needs. And from then on, it's cached on our edge servers, so it doesn't even touch our node server. Akamai serves everything up, and it's all distributed to geolocated data centers. So after that initial build, that merchant will get really fast scripts with just exactly what they need. And they can customize what they get by passing URL params to the script tag. So if they only want our buttons, they can just get our buttons. If they want other components, they can just say, I want this. And they only have a single script tag to integrate rather than multiple disparate script tags. So that's all a little bit hand-wavy. Actually, when I was practicing this talk with my fiancée last night, she was like, yeah, you really do wave your hands around a lot. Not exactly what I meant. But let's go into some specific use cases of actually how this ends up being useful and what we end up doing there. So first of all, we only take exactly what content is requested and bundled in the script. So if I'm a merchant who, say, only needs the buttons and I only need to show it for US buyers, we can essentially take all of that unneeded code and just throw it away for that particular client. And obviously the result of that is a way smaller JavaScript bundle. But how do we actually do that? Well, it turns out Webpack makes this super simple. A combination of Webpack, the Define plugin, and Uglify.js, they work together really well to box off things that you don't need. So let's say we want to box off just the locality settings that you need for a particular locale, like ENUS. Well, we can pass in locale as from the query string into our Webpack settings, into Define plugin. And then anywhere in our code we need this locale variable, we can reference it as a global, and we can just simply have conditions which box off these requires. And Webpack, in combination with Uglify.js, is smart enough just to say, okay, this condition, it's going to end up compiling down to if ENUS equals ENUS, and that's always going to be true, so we will need this enus.json, whereas enus equal to frfr is always going to be false, so we can totally ignore that frfr JSON, and we only get exactly what we need. And that works really, really seamlessly. So that's great. We know we want to load in everything we need for our hot render path. We don't want to be delaying renders on the page by lazy pulling in content and lazy pulling in settings. We just want to show people what they need straight away with a very small initial bundle. So one of the other things we're doing there is using Webpack to do lazy loading. And the advantage of that is everything that you do not need to immediately render something on the page can be dispatched to a separate JSON-P call. So essentially, we use a similar principle. We're using Webpack for this, and it makes it very, very easy using ES6 style functional imports. So if you haven't seen this style of import before, it's essentially like an ES6 import statement, except you're calling import as a function and you're getting a promise back. And what Webpack does when it sees this is it says, oh, okay, this feature must not be so important. This file must not be so important. So I'm going to take it off and put it in a separate file that's not going to be bundled in the main script. So if there's something that you know you don't need straight away, might as well do this. Might as well branch it off, and then you're not going to slow down people's pages when that's loaded for the first time. And there are a bunch of different settings you can use. You can have that all in one different asynchronous bundle, or you can have multiple asynchronous bundles depending on what your architecture looks like. So that's really, really useful. And of course, we can do the same with configuration. So when our SDK was just on a CDN, obviously it's all pre-compiled, it's static, it's not specific to any one merchant because we can't start putting client-specific configuration in there. It'll make our script balloon even further than it has ballooned already. So previously what we would do was load the script and then make a rather slow AJAX call to get config, which comes back, and then we can do our render, which is not great because then we're rendering behind everything else. Now we're building our entire script based on the client that's requesting it. So we can just embed that config directly into the script before it's loaded in the first place. And that makes things really fast. Webpack, Define plugin, and GraphQL are the real heroes of the story there. We end up embedding GraphQL queries directly into our script. We have those fired off, and then we embed them in with Define plugin into the bundle again. So essentially, we can do the same thing. We can box off different features based on exactly what the merchant needs. If we decide to enable Venmo for a particular merchant, we can say, okay, you're going to get this code, but nobody else is because nobody else needs it, and we don't want to slow them down. So super useful to be able to do that with Webpack. And of course, the experience ends up a lot better as a result. We're not having loading spinners anymore. The moment our script is loaded, we know exactly what we need to render, so we can just instantly show that stuff on the merchant's page, which is pretty good. And it also lets us make much better decisions about what we're going to render. So rather than just showing basic funding sources that we know we can render immediately, we can make a much more informed decision about what we're going to show on the page. This merchant is maybe based in the US, so they're eligible for Venmo, so we can immediately render that rather than incrementally rendering it much more slowly, which is less ideal. So how this ends up looking and where we want to end up with this is to have our SDK kind of dynamically talking to different GraphQL microservices in kind of a serverless fashion. So the idea would be that if our SDK needs data from a particular microservice, be it configuration or funding eligibility or even localization, we can power all of that with GraphQL. And the brilliant thing about GraphQL is we just pull in the exact data we need. So our script says, I need keys A, B, and C. I need this particular bit of content. I need this particular bit of configuration. And our Webpack server in production goes off and pulls that data in on demand and embeds it into the script. And we update the cache every 6 or so hours so that each merchant gets the very latest in what they need. So that's all great. We've talked a little bit about evergreen scripts, but how do we solve versioning for these kinds of scripts? That's kind of more of a difficult problem. We still need a way to be able to deprecate features. We know we're going to build something, and eventually we're going to say, oh, maybe that feature wasn't needed anymore. How can we get rid of it? And the problem we're in today with our current script is that's virtually impossible. If we have a feature, then someone is going to be using it, and we can't just delete that code. But one thing we've taken inspiration from for this new server-side Webpack compiled SDK is what Stripe does with their APIs. And they're pretty smart about versioning. They essentially say we're going to have one major version. So we're going to have something like /API/version2. But we're not going to have a minor version. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the date and time when the merchant or the client first integrated. So the first time they make an API call, we're going to lock them down to a particular date. And then we know that they've integrated on that date, and they only need the features that were built or not deprecated from that point onwards. And we've essentially tried to do a similar thing. We want merchants to be able to integrate with our SDK, and if there's some old feature that we've deprecated that we know we don't need anymore, they're not going to get that code, and we know that they don't need it because we've deprecated it. So we don't want to ship them code that they don't need, and because they've integrated on this day, we know that they don't need that old feature. And of course, we need a way for merchants to manually upgrade as well, because obviously they're going to want to take advantage of our smaller script bundles. So if they want, they can manually pass that date and that time in the URL, and they can actually upgrade their integration and take out all of those deprecated features, probably retest, run their integration tests, and make sure everything still works. So that, we found in practice, is kind of a nice compromise between kind of minor versioning, like you get with NPM, and evergreen versioning where you can't deprecate anything. This gives us a nice mix of both worlds where we can still deprecate features and only add new code for new integrations. How do we do that? Well, again, Webpack and Define plugin really power all of this. We can set up features that are deprecated based on particular timestamps, and we can feed those into the Webpack build. And then it's really just a matter of adding a condition to our code that says this feature isn't needed anymore, only give it to people who are integrated before a certain date. So how about deploying this thing? Well, I'm sorry to say that node deploys aren't the fastest thing in the world at PayPal. We're getting better, but we're not very good at deploying our node servers entirely in a short space of time. That's improving, but in the meantime, what we wanted to do for this SDK was say, how can we get this out as fast as possible and as safely as possible? So all of our deploys for this are based around NPM publishing. We've open sourced a module called GrabThar, which you're welcome to try. It's kind of alpha quality right now. We're currently testing it very thoroughly. But what that'll do is hot reload NPM modules as they're published. And we're using NPM dist tags to help us with that as well. So obviously we don't want to roll out and turn code on at the same time. We want to stage that so it's much safer and we have the opportunity to roll back. So the way we have things set up is when I do an NPM publish, that code is going to be rolled out to our production servers, and then only when I do publish an NPM dist tag, it'll actually go live and people will start using it, and then I can roll back by publishing a dist tag to an older NPM version. And if you haven't looked at dist tags already, please do. They're absolutely useful for this kind of use case. And of course, there's no need for us to compile the code in advance before we publish it. We're just directly publishing all of our source code, which is pre-Webpack and pre-Babel, and that way the server can dynamically compile it just based on exactly what's needed by the particular client. So, did it work? Well, we're currently testing and we've had really good results so far. We're really happy with how this thing's working. It's enabled us to cut out a lot of our bundle size. It's enabled us to make our merchants really happy, and we'll be rolling this out to general release this year. But if you want to find out more, come work with us. Maybe you'll be here in a year's time telling people not to run Webpack on the server side. Who knows? But yeah, please, if you have any questions, feel free to come to me after the talk. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.